My name is Alex. I'm 28 years old. And if you had asked me just a month ago about my family, I probably would have said that we were, at worst, mildly dysfunctional. You know, the usual stuff. Passive-aggressive remarks flying around during Thanksgiving. My mom very obviously favoring my younger sister Emily. And my dad being blissfully unaware of nearly everything happening around him. Annoying? Definitely. Unbearable? Not really. That was before Emily's wedding, because that wedding made me realize something important. My family doesn't just play favorites. They have a main character, and spoiler alert, it's not me. For a bit of background, Emily is 25, and saying she's been treated like royalty her entire life would honestly be an understatement. This is the same girl who threw a full-blown tantrum at 16 because my parents bought me a used car, while she demanded a brand new one for herself when her birthday came around. And guess what? She got it. Emily has always been the golden child. The princess. The one who can do absolutely no wrong, even when she's very, very wrong. Meanwhile, I was the older sibling, the one expected to set a good example, which basically translated to do everything right and still never quite measure up. If I brought home straight A's and 1B, my mom would sigh and say, "Alex, you're capable of more." But if Emily barely passed a class, suddenly it was balloons, cake, and congratulations all around. So yeah, I knew exactly where I stood growing up. Going into Emily's wedding, I had absolutely no expectation of being the center of attention. Obviously, it was her wedding. I was fully prepared to show up, smile for photos, play the role of the supportive sibling, and make it through the day without any unnecessary drama. That was the goal. What I wasn't prepared for, what I truly could not have anticipated, was just how far my family would go to make sure I understood exactly where I ranked in their hierarchy. Looking back, the warning signs were there long before the actual day. First, I found out I wasn't included in the wedding party. Fine. Not every couple includes siblings as bridesmaids or groomsmen. It stung a little, sure, but I brushed it off. No big deal. Then I learned who was included. Emily's childhood best friend, her coworker, her fiancé's cousin's girlfriend. That one hurt a bit more. I mean, when people you barely know outrank you at your own sister's wedding, it's hard not to notice. But again, I told myself, maybe she just wanted to mix things up. Maybe she wanted a fresh group? Whatever. Then came the seating chart. Now, I didn't expect to sit at the head table. That was obviously reserved for the bridegroom and the wedding party. But I assumed, reasonably, that I'd at least be seated with our family. You know, the people I share DNA, holidays, and decades of history with. Wrong. When I arrived at the venue and went to pick up my place card, I noticed something strange. My name wasn't listed with my parents. It wasn't with my aunts, my cousins, no one. In fact, my name wasn't even on the visible seating chart at all. At first, I thought maybe it had been misplaced, so I asked a wedding planner where I was supposed to sit. She scanned her list, paused, and then gave me the tightest, most uncomfortable smile I'd ever seen. "Oh, Alex, you're right here," she pointed. I followed her finger, And that's when I saw it. My seat wasn't inside the grand ballroom, where the chandeliers sparkled and beautifully decorated tables filled the space. No, my seat was outside the ballroom, literally in the hallway, near the coat rack. For a second, I actually laughed. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. I assumed it had to be some kind of mistake. Maybe they ran out of chairs or were still rearranging things. But no, that lonely little table near the entrance, that was mine. Just me, a single chair, and the faint smell of mothballs drifting off people's winter coats. I turned back to the planner, still half smiling. "You're kidding, right?" She looked miserable. "I'm really sorry," she said quietly. "But this is where you've been assigned." Assigned? Like a prisoner being handed a cell number. And that was the moment confusion started giving way to something else. At that point, I wasn't even angry yet. I was just confused, completely baffled. I kept thinking, maybe this was some elaborate joke or a bizarre wedding tradition I'd somehow never heard of. Nothing about it made sense. He needed answers, and I knew exactly where to get them. I found Emily near the bridal suite, glowing in the center of attention like she always did. She was surrounded by her friends and our mom, who was busy fussing over her dress like it was the eighth wonder of the world. When Emily spotted me approaching, she plastered on the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "Oh, hey," she said lightly. "You made it." I held up my place card. "Yeah. Quick question. Why isn't my seat inside the reception hall?" She blinked. Then she giggled, actually giggled. "Oh, that," she said. "Yeah, we had to move a few things around at the last minute." I replied. "And I just happened to be the one who got moved to the hallway." Emily shrugged like it was nothing. "I mean, yeah, we had to prioritize a close family for the main tables." I stared at her. "I am close family." That's when my mom, who had been pretending not to listen, stepped in with a sickly sweet voice. "Alex, don't make a scene. It's Emily's special day." "I'm not making a scene," I said. "I'm asking why I'm sitting next to the coats." And then Emily said the thing that officially turned this into the worst wedding I had ever attended. "Well," she said casually, adjusting her veil, "you're kind of not really immediate family anymore." I felt my stomach drop. "Excuse me?" She shrugged again, clearly bored by the conversation. "You moved out years ago. You don't come around that often. And you're not married or anything. It's just different now." I didn't even know how to describe what settled in my chest at that moment. It wasn't just anger. It was heavier than that. Colder. I wasn't immediate family anymore because I grew up. Because I grew up. Because I built my own life. Because I wasn't married. Before I could respond, another voice cut in. That's when I saw her, Emily's new mother-in-law. I hadn't interacted with her much before that day, but the moment she walked over, I knew exactly what kind of person she was. The type who thrived on drama. The kind who loved stirring the pot just to watch things boil over. She looked at me with a smirk. "Oh, you're Alex." I was wondering who that seat belonged to. I forced a tight smile. Yep, that would be me. The sibling who apparently doesn't count. She chuckled and looked me up and down with mock sympathy. "Well, you know how weddings are. Only the most important people get the best spots." And that's when it clicked. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't bad planning. This was intentional. And the moment that realization hit, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to sit quietly through this wedding. And I definitely wasn't going to leave without saying something. He took a slow, steady breath, gripping the place card in my hand so tightly my fingers almost hurt. If this was how they wanted to treat me, fine. But they had forgotten one very important thing. I grew up with Emily. I knew her secrets. I knew the things she said when she thought no one was listening. And most importantly, I knew just how much she despised her new mother-in-law. Oh, she smiled to her face and acted sweet in public. But behind closed doors, completely different story. And right now I had an audience. He turned to Emily's mother-in-law and plastered on my most sympathetic, overly polite expression. "You know," I said casually, "it's funny. Just the other day, Emily was so stressed about the seating arrangements." Emily, who had been inspecting her nails like this conversation didn't matter, suddenly stiffened. Her mother-in-law raised an eyebrow. "Oh," he nodded. "Yeah." She kept saying how worried she was about certain people sitting too close to the head table. He let the silence stretch just long enough to feel uncomfortable, then leaned in slightly like I was sharing a secret. "Something about not wanting the wedding photos ruined by—" "What was it, Emily?" I turned to her with an innocent tilt of my head. "Oh, right, someone's tacky dress." The smirk vanished from her mother-in-law's face. "Excuse me," she snapped. Emily's color drained instantly. "Alex, but I wasn't done." "Oh, and remember how stressed you were about the speeches?" I continued. "You were really worried about what certain people might say." I gave her mother-in-law a pointed look. "You believe your exact words were, 'If she gives a speech, I swear I'll lose my mind.'" She's so embarrassing. She'll probably try to make the whole thing about herself. Emily let out a choked sound and grabbed my arm. "Can I talk to you for a second?" I pulled away, feigning confusion. Why? I thought we were having a family conversation. Since I'm apparently not immediate family, I figured this was the only way I could participate. Her mother-in-law's eyes narrowed. "Is that true?" Emily laughed nervously. "No, of course not. Alex is just—" "Oh!" I interrupted suddenly, clapping my hand to my forehead. How could I forget the bachelorette party? Emily's mother-in-law turned back to me sharply. "You know," I continued cheerfully, "the one where Emily spent half the night complaining about you. She said she was counting down the days until she wouldn't have to fake being nice anymore." Emily looked like she was about to pass out. "She said she was only tolerating you because she didn't want to start her marriage with drama. And that was it. That was the kill shot." Her mother-in-law's mouth fell open. My mom, who had been awkwardly hovering nearby, looked absolutely horrified. My dad, who up until this moment had remained completely clueless, actually took a step back, like he was hoping to physically remove himself from the situation. Around us, Emily's friends and bridesmaids started whispering furiously, exchanging wide-eyed looks. Emily herself looked like she was about to burst into flames. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then her mother-in-law snapped. "You ungrateful little brat." I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from smiling, because this was about to get good. "You think you can just use me," she continued, her voice sharp and furious, "after everything I've done for you. The money I put into this wedding, the favors he pulled." She gestured wildly toward the ballroom. her perfectly manicured nails flashing under the chandelier lights. "And this whole time you've been running your mouth behind my back," Emily stammered. "I didn't." Her mother-in-law whirled toward my parents. "You knew about this? You raised her to be this kind of snake?" My mom looked like she was about to faint. "Of course not. Emily would never." "Oh, don't even try," I cut in, shaking my head. "You absolutely knew. You just didn't care." I let out a fake sigh. "I mean, you did raise her to believe she's the most important person in the world. Kind of makes sense she'd start treating everyone else like garbage, right?" My mom's face twisted with anger. "Alex, stop it. Why? Why?" It crossed my arms. "Because I'm causing a scene? Funny how that only matters when I speak up." Didn't seem to be a problem when Emily shoved me out of the reception. By now, people were openly staring. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Heads turned. Conversations died. That's when the groom finally showed up. He walked over, clearly confused. "What's going on?" His mother spun toward him instantly. "What's going on is that your wife is a backstabbing little brat who's been insulting my family behind my back this whole time." The groom blinked. "Wait, what?" She pointed straight at Emily. "She's been complaining about my dress, my speech, my presence, saying she's only tolerating me until she doesn't have to anymore." Slowly, the groom turned to Emily. "Did you actually say that?" Emily shook her head frantically. "No, well, man, not like that. Oh, not like that." His mother scoffed. "Please." And just like that, the wedding turned into a war zone. Emily and her mother-in-law were shouting over each other. My mom was desperately trying, and failing, to calm everyone down. My dad looked like he wanted to walk straight into the ocean. The groom just stood there, staring at his wife like someone had smashed him in the face with a frying pan. Meanwhile, I stood there, calmly sipping my champagne like I was watching a Broadway show. And honestly, it was beautiful. But the best part, the absolute cherry on top, was that I still wasn't done. Emily's voice climbed higher and higher, her hands shaking as she turned toward her new husband. "You're really going to believe her over me," she screamed, pointing straight at me. To his credit, he still looked like he was trying to process everything. His jaw was tight, his face torn between humiliation and disbelief as guests openly stared. "I don't even know what to say, Emily," he muttered, rubbing his forehead. "Did you actually say those things?" Emily scoffed. "It was taken out of context." I raised an eyebrow. "Out of context? Oh, right. That classic excuse." I put on an exaggerated, mocking tone. "Oh no, I was just joking. I didn't mean it like that." Then my voice flattened. "Give it up, Emily. You got caught." And let's be honest, if I hadn't said anything, you still wouldn't have cared. Her mother-in-law turned back to my parents, her fury growing. "And you're just okay with this?" My mom opened her mouth, then closed it again, like a fish gasping for air. "We don't condone." "Oh, cut it out," I said, waving a hand. "You absolutely knew how she felt and still let her play the perfect daughter-in-law." It clicked my tongue. "Guess appearances matter more than honesty, huh?" Emily screamed, her voice cracking. "You're ruining my wedding, Alex." He looked around dramatically. "I'm ruining it? Sorry, I didn't realize I was the one treating family like dirt and trash-talking the groom's mother." He turned toward the guests. many of whom were staring wide-eyed. What do you all think? Who's really to blame here? A few people quickly looked away, clearly wanting no part of it. But one of the bridesmaids, Emily's own bridesmaid, leaned over and whispered something to the woman next to her. That woman laughed. Emily whipped around, furious. You think this is funny? The bridesmaid hesitated, then shrugged. I mean, kind of. Oh, this was getting really good. Emily's hands clenched into fists, but before she could explode again, I decided I was done. Frankly, I was bored. He sighed dramatically. Well, this has been delightful. Truly, a fantastic experience. But I think it's time for me to go. Emily threw up her hands. Fine, go. I smiled. Oh, don't worry, I will. Then I turned toward the gift table. He scanned the gift table, where piles of expensive, beautifully wrapped presents were stacked near the front of the room. And there it was, my gift. The one I had spent weeks picking out. The one that took actual thought, real effort, and a not insignificant amount of money. Emily followed my gaze, and her eyes went wide. Alex, no? I strolled over casually, humming to myself as I lifted the box from the table. Her jaw dropped. Are you seriously taking that back? I gave her a flat look. Why wouldn't they? I shrugged. Apparently, I'm not real family. Wouldn't want to risk contaminating it. I gasped dramatically and clutched my chest. Oh my God. What if I accidentally got my servant germs all over it? That could totally ruin your precious married life. Emily's face turned a dangerous shade of red. You're such a child. Maybe, I said, tucking the gift under my arm. But at least I'm not a fake, lying, two-faced brat who pretends to be sweet while trash-talking people behind their backs. He turned toward her mother-in-law, whose fury was still simmering. Good luck with this one, I said lightly. I give it a year. Her mother-in-law actually laughed. Emily let out a full-on screech. Without another word, I turned on my heel and headed toward the exit. Behind me, the tension was so thick, it felt like you could slice through it with a knife. The music had stopped completely. Guests were whispering openly. The entire atmosphere had shifted from celebration to full-blown disaster. And honestly, I loved it. When I reached the door, I paused and glanced back one last time. Emily was still arguing with her mother-in-law. My parents looked like they wanted the floor to swallow them whole. The groom stood frozen in place, staring into the distance like he was reevaluating every life choice he'd ever made. He lifted my hand in a small wave, a smug smile tugging at my lips. Enjoy your perfect wedding, sis. Then I walked out. I didn't look back. Once it was out of that disaster of a wedding, I didn't need to look back. I already knew the damage had been done. As soon as the doors closed behind me, I let out a long breath and adjusted the weight of the gift under my arm. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. He drove home in complete silence, letting the night settle around me while my mind replayed everything that had just happened. Emily screaming, my mother panicking, my father's quiet shock, and my sister's mother-in-law burning with rage. Every single moment felt surreal, but in a strange way, it was also incredibly validating. I knew, though, that this wasn't the end. The fallout was only just beginning, and I was right. The next morning, My phone exploded. Missed calls, text messages, voicemails. It was like my entire family had suddenly remembered I existed overnight. My mom alone left 7 voicemails. Her tone shifted wildly, from desperate and pleading to furious and accusatory. Alex, what were you thinking? You humiliated your sister on the biggest day of her life. Call me back now. Then, Alex, honey, please, we can talk about this. Just come over. Let's work this out. And then, that was the most immature, selfish thing I have ever seen. I hope you're happy. I hope you enjoyed destroying your sister's wedding. Oh, I was happy. I really, really was. But my sister's messages were even better. It's over between us. How could you do this? You ruined everything. I can't even look at my wedding photos because of you. You took back your gift? Are you serious? What kind of person does that? I hate you. I really, really hate you. He grinned as I scrolled through them, sipping my coffee. If Emily thought a few angry messages were going to make me feel guilty, she clearly didn't know me very well. But then I saw one message that made me pause. It was from my dad. Unlike my mom and sister, he wasn't yelling or demanding an apology. His message was short and simple. Call me when you have a moment. I hesitated for a second before dialing. My dad was never one to get involved in family drama. He usually let my mom and Emily take the lead while he stayed in the background. The fact that he was reaching out at all told me something serious had happened. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, Dad. There was a long pause. Then he sighed. Why did you do this? I snorted. They lit the fuse. Not my fault it blew up. He sighed again. And then, to my surprise, he chuckled. Low. Tired. Yeah, he admitted quietly. They kind of did. That caught me off guard. Wait, you agree with me? He didn't say that, he replied, though his tone had softened. But I saw what happened. I saw how your mother and your sister treated you, and it wasn't right. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. So I'm not the only one not blaming myself? Another pause. Not the only one, he said. And that's when I learned just how badly everything had fallen apart after I left. According to my dad, the wedding didn't magically return to normal after I walked out. The chaos he'd sparked didn't die down. It exploded. Emily completely lost control once I was gone. Her mother-in-law publicly confronted her in front of the remaining guests, demanding to know whether what I'd said was true. Emily panicked. She tried to lie. She tried to downplay everything. She tried to play innocent, but the damage was already done. Apparently, her mother-in-law had suspected for a while that something wasn't quite right between them. My little revelation was simply the final push. By the time the reception ended, she had all but disowned Emily. The groom, absolutely furious. He had genuinely believed that Emily and his mother had a good relationship. He had no idea she'd been mocking and insulting her behind her back. Finding out like that, in public, at his own wedding, wasn't exactly a great way to start a marriage. According to my dad, they had a massive fight that night. And by massive, I mean, maybe we should rethink this entire marriage levels of massive. As for my parents, they were stuck right in the middle. My mom tried to smooth things over, but Emily's mother-in-law wasn't having it. She blamed my mom for raising us spoiled entitled daughter, and told her flat out that she didn't want Emily anywhere near her family anymore. Complete, total, fallout. So what's the situation now? I asked, genuinely curious. My dad sighed. Emily's not handling it well. I rolled my eyes. Shocking. She's blaming you for everything, he continued. She thinks if you hadn't said anything, none of this would have happened. I laughed. Of course she does. God forbid she take responsibility for her own actions. He was quiet for a moment, then said something that really surprised me. She wants you to apologize. I nearly choked on my coffee. Apologize? She thinks it's the only way to fix things, he said. She thinks if you take the blame, maybe her mother-in-law will forgive her and things can go back to normal. I laughed so hard it hurt. Yeah, that's not happening. You figure it, my dad said. Then, in a lower voice, and honestly, I don't think you should. I froze. Wait, seriously? He told you, he said. He saw what happened. And maybe it's about time someone finally called her out. That meant more to me than I expected. So what now? I asked. He sighed again. Your mom's still trying to fix things, but I don't think it's going to work. His mom is furious. The groom barely talks to Emily. And Emily? He hesitated. She's a mess. Good. I didn't say it out loud, but I wasn't going to pretend I felt sorry for her. She spent years making me feel invisible, like I wasn't good enough, like I didn't belong. Now she was facing the consequences of her own behavior. And it was long overdue. It's been a few weeks since the wedding, and honestly, I still haven't spoken to my sister. She refuses to take responsibility for anything that happened. She still blames me for everything that went wrong, and she still expects me to somehow fix it all for her. But I won't. I don't regret what I did. If anything, I'm proud of myself for finally standing up and refusing to be treated like an afterthought. For years, I stayed quiet. He swallowed my feelings. I played the role I was expected to play. Not anymore. As for Emily's marriage, well, let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't last. Starting a marriage with lies, disrespect, and public humiliation isn't exactly a strong foundation. My mom still tries to call from time to time. I don't answer. I'm not ready, and I'm not sure I ever will be. My dad, on the other hand, checks in occasionally, nothing dramatic, just short conversations. But there is a sense of understanding there now that didn't exist before. And honestly, that's enough. Looking back, I know some people would call what I did petty. Maybe I could have kept quiet. Maybe I could have swallowed the disrespect and played along for the sake of family peace. But here's the thing. Peace that only exists when one person stays silent isn't peace at all. So tell me, was I too petty? Should I have just smiled and taken it? Or did my sister finally get exactly what she deserved? Either way, I could really use a good laugh.